All right, my lovelies, for our first video, we're going to do notes 1. This is applied math. And I'm going to be doing adding and subtracting integers without a calculator. And I'm also going to do the second section, which is multiplying and dividing integers without a calculator. So the first set of problems is all about adding and subtracting. There's a few different ways to attack these. I'm going to go with the way that my brain starts to look at this, which is to simply look at, do I have more negatives or more positives in the problem? And you'll notice when I underline that 8, I underline the plus sign that goes with it. That 8 is positive. So I've got a -3 and a positive 8. So the question I'm going to ask you is, what do you have more of, positives or negatives? Well, I know I got more positives. How many more? I have 5 more positives than negatives. So that's one way to look at adding and subtracting with negative numbers or with integers. For part B, I'm going to do basically a little bit of a variant on it. Sometimes, again, what works for you may not work for me. But if I look at it this way, negatives are debt, right? Things that I owe, right? What I have in debt. And then positives are what I actually have. So if I think about this one, I have $7 of debt and I have $4 in my pocket. I am not out of debt yet. In fact, I would still owe that person $3. So different ways to look at these problems still get you the correct answer. Does not matter which way you choose. Okay, so make sure it makes sense to you. For part C, if I look at, either method, if I talk about negatives, well, both the numbers are negative. Okay, cool. So if I look at debt then, in terms of my situation here, I'm $5 in debt and I'm $6 in debt. Unfortunately, I have not gotten myself out of debt, so my answer is going to be negative. I am, in fact, getting myself deeper in debt. I've gotten myself a bigger debt to fix. Okay, so then part D here, well, what do I have? I definitely have in a number 9 a positive number. But what the heck is going on with number 4 here? Well, I'm not a huge fan. In fact, I'm going to delete that line that I put there. I'm not a huge fan with 4 of having the double sign in front of it. It's a -4. I don't like that. So instead of doing the double negative, I know that double negative really just stands for a positive. All right, 2 negatives in this situation, it's like having multiplication, negative times a negative makes the positive. In this case, now everything's all positive. So 9 plus 4 makes a lovely 13. As long as I can write the 1 there. All right, and then part E, we have another double negative here. So -2 is the exact same thing as just +2. The +6 does not need to change in any way, shape, or form. And last I checked, 2 plus 6 makes 8. So that one's all good. And then back to having 2 different signs for part F here. We've got a +4 and a -10. So for my brain initially, I think, oh, do I have more negatives or positives? I definitely have more negatives. How many more? 6 more negatives. You could also look at it and say, well, you have $4, but you owe somebody $10. That $10 is debt. So how do you get out of it? Well, you can pay them the $4, but you would still owe them 6. All right, so that's the first set of problems, all about adding and subtracting with integers. So your negatives and positives. All right, moving on to multiplying and dividing with negative numbers. This is where it becomes, to me, a little bit more straightforward. And what I mean by that is when you have 2 numbers, so -3 and a +5. That is a horrible picture. Color choice there. It didn't look like it was any different. But when you have 2 numbers here, one is positive, one is negative, it doesn't matter what you have more of. What matters is that you have mismatched signs. One's positive, one's negative, which means your answer is going to be negative. And then just do 3 times 5, which is a fabulous 15. Okay, so if I look at then problem part B, right, we've got a +4 and a -7. It doesn't matter that the negative is the larger of the numbers with the 7, or in the case of part A where the 5 was larger and it's positive, none of that matters. What matters is when you have two numbers and they are oppositely signed, you are going to end up with a negative answer. Oops. Let me actually write with a pen here. So that would be a negative, 4 times 7 is 28. So there you go. All right, so first two done there with different signs. Now for part C, both of your numbers here are negatives, right? We got two numbers, we have matched signs. Well, this is where, if you've heard teachers in the past talk about two negatives make a positive, that is this situation. When you are multiplying two negatives, absolutely, they are going to make a positive. 6 times 8 is 48, so whoa, there we go, a little glitch on the pen there. Positive 48, okay? Part D and Part E are going to start getting into a little bit of order of operations. So before I even talk about multiplication, I'm going to do what's inside the parentheses here first, which is just like that first problem we did when we talk, and I say first problem, I mean the first set of problems where it was adding and subtracting. So do I have more negatives or positives? I have more positives. I have 4 more of them. So positive 4 is what's in the parentheses now. Now I can do multiplication. A negative 3, all right, so we've got the 3 that's negative, and I've got the 4 that's positive, so these are mismatched signs, which means my answer is going to be negative, and 3 times 4 is 12, all right, so that one's all done. Part E, I need to do, again, order of operations, and in this case, I have to do this multiplication first. And yes, I am pulling in that negative to go with the 5 here. All right. So having said that, I'm going to leave the 4 alone. Negative 5 times negative 2 makes positive 10. And then I just do straightforward addition here. 4 plus 10 makes 14. So whenever you're dealing with two numbers and you are multiplying, and we'll talk about division in just a second, multiplying or dividing, if you have matched signs, so matched signs meaning both negatives or both positives, your answer is going to be positive. If you have mismatched signs, I don't know, such as, F here where you've got a negative and a positive, that is going to give you negative answers. So as I said, we've got mismatched signs here. We have a negative number here. We've got a positive number here. Overall, we're doing division. So we're going to have a negative 6 divided by 2 makes 3. So that one's all done. And whether you have part F with the fraction bar or part G with the division symbol, they mean the exact same thing. The only difference between part F and part G is in part G, both of my numbers are negative, which means my answer is actually going to be positive. 8 divided by 4 makes 2, and that should be it. All right, I'm going to hold off here. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns on this, and then in the next video, I'll get into the next part of the notes on exponents.